Room 2110, I knocked on the door at the penthouse suite, cause I needed more from you.
One day, we were in class. I was in band at the time, and the classroom phone rang. And the teacher went and he answered the phone. He got really serious, he got this really concerned, shocked look on his face, and he hung it up and he turned to us and he said, "Everybody sit down, be quiet. The bell's going to ring in a couple minutes. You're going to stay seated." And then he went over to the doors and he locked them. And we were just like, oh shit, what is happening? And at first some of us were like, well, is it a bomb threat? Because we used to get bomb threats all the time, but then we realized that doesn't make sense because when we get a bomb threat, they evacuate us. And then we're like, is there some type of killer in the school? Is there a weather alert? Is there a terrorist attack? And none of us knew anything. The teacher wouldn't answer any questions. He was told not to. And the bell rang. We all stayed seated and we sat there for a really long time, and then the next bell rang, which means a whole other class period had passed, and still he said, "Stay seated." And I can't tell you how long we were trapped in this room seated, and I can't tell you how long we were trapped in this room, and nobody was telling us what was going on. We're all getting really scared and panicking because we had never had a situation like this, and we had practiced so many drills, so many, if there's a bomb, we all go to the band lot. If there's a tornado, we all go to the basement. If there's a fire, we take these exits on this side. We always had a plan, and this was just something that we had never planned, and nobody was telling us anything. So eventually they're texting their parents and calling their parents, and they're saying, "Do you know anything about this?" And the parents are all freaking out, and now it's like an ordeal. Some of the parents started listening to the police scanners, and it was getting back to us that there were ambulances outside of our school, and we're just like, and at this point, a lot of us are panicking because we think there's some type of shooter or something, because that makes sense. Like, okay, the doors are locked. They're telling us to be quiet. They're telling us not to move. They're telling us not to leave. There's ambulances outside. And finally, they just opened the doors and let us go. And they wouldn't tell us. They just open the doors and let us go, and they wouldn't tell us anything still. So we're just like, okay, we just sat in this classroom for like hours. There's ambulances outside of our school, and you're just gonna let us go to our next class? So you can probably tell by the title of this video what happened. A girl died in class during school hours. And here's the story on that. So earlier in that day, around like first, second period, somebody sold her a bunch of Oxycontins. She, during school, took all of them. She ended up going to her 7th period class at 3rd period, and she walked in and the teacher was like, "Honey, what are you doing here?" And she said, "Oh, I'm here for class." And the teacher was like, "You're not here until later, honey. It's only 3rd period." And I wasn't here for this, but supposedly when she walked away, she said to somebody else, "Oh, she's on something," or "She's drunk," or something. But it was obvious that she was on something. So she went a couple classes later and she put her head down on the desk. She was sleeping. She was sleeping, and she was just kind of one of those students who, you know, showed up late and slept in class. Obviously didn't show a ton of interest in her work, and her teacher for that period, who was actually an incredible teacher. Everybody in that school knows that he was an amazing teacher. He was a caring teacher, but he didn't wake her up for I don't know what reason it was. I don't know if he just thought, you know, you can only try so hard to make somebody interested in class. I don't know if he figured, you know what, she could really use the sleep, just let her nap. But that class was over and the bell rang and everybody got up, but she stayed seated laying on her desk like this with her head down, and she wasn't getting up. So somebody who was sitting next to her nudged her and was like, "Hey, wake up, class is over." And she didn't move, and then she nudged her a little harder to wake her up, and that is when her arm fell completely limp to the side of the desk. So obviously at this point, people start panicking. They roll her over and she is completely blue. I don't know how long she was out. I don't know how long she wasn't breathing, but she had completely OD'd and had not been receiving oxygen for enough time to turn her blue. That is when the ambulances were called. That is when the school was put on lockdown. She was taken out, obviously, and she died that day. In class, she died. And I remember it was shocking, it was scary. The hallways felt heavy. We had a school assembly at the beginning of every single year, and they always told the same stories about the same kids, and it was always an anti-drug assembly. I'm assuming that a lot of you guys have those at school. We kind of pushed a little bit harder because there was a lot of drug issues in my hometown and in my school. There were a lot of drug-related murders, there were a lot of suicides, and the principals and the school board did what they could to get the message across that there's help and there's somebody to talk to, and if you see a problem, report it. And they just drilled it into our heads so much. So I remember right after this happened, they called another assembly, like an emergency assembly. We all filed in, and usually when we file into assemblies, it's loud and nobody wants to be there and nobody's listening and nobody cares, but we sat there and we listened and we were silent. And they pulled down the projector screen and they projected onto it a picture of this girl's MySpace page. And he starts talking about what a tragedy this is, what a loss this was. He told us about the fact that it was oxys and that she had taken all of them, and started giving us the anti-drug speech that we get every year at the beginning of the year. But then they pulled down the big white projector screen and they project onto it her MySpace page. It sent chills down our spine because we're looking up at the MySpace profile and the face of this girl who literally just died in school, in the school that we are sitting in a day or two prior. And he points to it and he says, "This
MK. So when I was like 8, I was playing monkey in the middle with my 2 friends in one of their backyards. And their neighbor's yard is right behind it. So if one of us threw it over the fence, we would have to go back and get it first, so we weren't in the middle. So then I overthrew it and went running to their neighbor's backyard, but their neighbor had this huge ass dog. We're talking German Shepherd, and I go running to go get the ball and run past the neighbor's door. But the door screen was broken, so the dog went running out and bit me right on the booty cheek. And so then my friend's mom came out and saw me on the floor with my bloody booty cheek, and we went to my other friend's house and she checked my bloody booty cheek to see it got worse. So then I went home, but that thing was nasty. So we went to the doctor and now I have a giant scar on my right booty cheek, smirking cat face. Smirking cat face."
In 4th grade, I went to church camp in Wyoming, and we stayed in cabins. I got my period at camp, but I had been hiding it for 3 months, so I already knew what it was, and didn't have pads or tampons. The girls in cabin were older than me, and said that anyone who gets their period before age 15 is going to HE double hockey sticks. I was embarrassed to ask for stuff, so I put a sock in my underwear. I didn't know what to do with it the next morning, so I flushed it down the toilet. The whole bathroom flooded later that day, and when we went in there to look, the bloody sock was laying in the middle of the bathroom floor. The counselors went around to each bunk trying to match the sock to someone. I hid my matching sock in my pillowcase.
Okay, so when I was like 4, my dad took me to an inside playground and it was all fine until when I was on top of the slide and I needed to pee really bad, but I couldn't go down the stairs because there were kids in the way. I would probably pee myself halfway going down, so I go through the slide and guess what? I peed myself, and my dad had to go to the Marshalls with me all peed so he could buy me new pants. All of the kids there were staring at me, slightly smiling face. When I was a child, and to this day I suffer from horrible intrusive thoughts. When I was 6, I could not control them. My friend's dad used to own a McDonald's and he let us in the back one day. She said something mean and the thoughts kicked in. I told her to close her eyes. I then dumped a vat of boiling hot fry oil on her back. She screamed so loud I told her dad it was an accident. I told her it was an accident. But I know I meant it. She still has the scar to this day. It goes down her whole back. I can never look at her the same. I feel horrible about it. I've only told a few people that care to listen. 3 months before I turned 18, I went out with a bunch of friends, and I decided to make a bet with a friend on who could drink more vodka. Of course, as a tiny girl, I lost, and it hit me hard. I got up to go to the bathroom at one point, and everything was spinning, so I peed myself and threw up. The end result, I was taken to the hospital because I almost was in an alcoholic coma. They called child services because I was still a minor, and my friend called my mother. I was so nervous that they had to give me sedatives when I saw my parents at the hospital. The day after, at home, my parents were laughing their asses off at me. To this day, I feel stupid and humiliated about making the bet, but after hearing some family stories, I realized that my aunts, my dad, and even my grandma had all done stupid stuff after. So y'all know Avani, right? Hopefully you do, or this story won't make sense. Anyways, I met her basically twice. Before that clown video, she lived in my town, and the first time I saw her I was in my local Walmart and I turned around and basically had a heart attack, but then I left to go tell my sister and dad, but I didn't know how to approach a celebrity if she counts as one, and my phone was almost dead, so I said fuck this, so I didn't meet her then. The next time was at my town high school for an orchestra concert of all grades 6th to 12th, and Avana's sister goes there and plays orchestra, so she was there and I was there because one of my friends or a few play in orchestra. So basically one of my friends that wasn't playing said that people were saying Avani was here, and so we went looking for her. We were about to go down the stairs when she came up, and I gasped and she could tell. LOL, I felt so stupid, but I met her and I have pictures, but she followed me on Insta, but later on she unfollowed me. The fuck. I also accidentally sat down next to her parents and I was basically just very awkward. In 4th grade I got boobs. And a boy kept popping my bra. My teacher told me the all boys will be boys. So I invited the boy under the slide for a peek at my bra. I told him to close his eyes. And then I kicked him square in the nuts. I laughed all the way to detention.
When I was in 7th grade, I was planning on doing it in the boys' bathroom with my boyfriend, and when we got undressed together in the big stall, a boy walked in and heard us, and he looked under the stall and saw us butt naked with my boyfriend's D and me. He took a video and showed the whole school and we got suspended. Now we are broken up and I still think about that day.
My middle school was filled with fucking annoying ass fake ass bitches. This one time in 8th grade, I got up to use the bathroom while we were taking a test. At the time, I had this fake ass bitch asshole ass dumb ass big fucking ears ass flat ass friend. We had the same crush and she secretly hated me for it. After I came back into the class from the bathroom, I was chewing some gum, and my crush was sitting behind me. I got up from my seat to throw out my gum wrapper. Little did I know the bitch asshole wanted to get back at me for coming for her man. When I got up from my chair, my crush started laughing and said she shit her pants in front of the whole class. Keep in mind it was quiet. Every head started laughing. I looked at my seat and there was a chunk of chocolate bar on my chair. I looked at the fake asshole and I instantly knew what she did. She was laughing too. I was so embarrassed. The fucking raggedy ass old ass history teacher sent me to the nurse. Bitch. But that's not where the story ends, hoes. I knew where that ugly hoe Michaela lived. Yeah, I'm exposing her ass. After school I popped out at her house and her mom let me inside. When she came home from soccer practice, her bed.
One time I had really bad acne, so I had to be put on a Accutane. It went fine and I got off it, but the acne came back, so I was put on it again. For a couple of months things were normal until one day I realized I was really thirsty. For some reason, no matter how much water I drank, my thirst couldn't be quenched. I looked up what that meant and it said it's a sign of diabetes. I started to get really scared that I might have diabetes, so I started to cry and begged my parents to take me to the doctor, but they said to wait a couple days. The next day I was crying again and I looked up how to tell if you have diabetes at home, and it said that if your pee smells sweet, you have diabetes. So I peed in an empty yogurt cup and made my dad smell it. He said it didn't smell sweet and my thirst went away the next day. We never speak of that. In middle school I was a hot Cheeto girl, haha. This white girl, we'll call her Megan, would talk behind my back constantly. She was obsessed with me. She would talk about my looks, voice, friends, family and race sometimes. I didn't take anything to heart because I'm not sensitive like that, but it would make me so mad when she would talk about my family and race. I'm Cuban, by the way. One day somebody told me that she said that I need to go back to my country. This got me fucked up. So one day while we were changing for PE in the locker room, I comforted her. She finally got the courage to say shit to my face. She told me to go back to Mexico and that my family is poor. I said, bitch, I'm not from Mexico, stupid ass red eye white rat looking ass bitch. Then she said,
When I was in middle school, I made those accounts that ships people from my school, and I shipped myself with my crush, and I commented a gross from my main so it wouldn't look suspicious. Turns out the guy actually liked me, but had to comment dis instead of ship because I said gross. When I found out about this, I went home crying because I missed my only chance I had. Sophomore year of high school, I forgot to put my backpack back into school mode from weekend mode and didn't realize it until 7th period in chemistry class. We had these hide-up chairs kinda like bar stools, and I was getting my calculator out and I dropped my bag onto the ground and heard glass break. Then suddenly it starts smelling like mango vodka. I didn't know what to do at first, then everyone started noticing the smell and people were like, why it smell like rubbing alcohol? Then my teacher started walking down my aisle and came to my bag and saw the puddle of vodka and straight up said, that's it. He then called a security person to escort me to the dean's, and the school cop was in there, and they made me open my bag and shit and had me pull out the broken glass, but I couldn't really see what I was pulling out because they wanted the bag in view, so I cut my hand really bad, and when my parents found out, they first of all thought I was a dumb bitch, but then they threatened to sue the school because I cut my hand. Basically, they were saying they'd sue so I wouldn't get suspended or expelled. And it worked. Ladies, work smarter, not harder. Nail polish being applied to fingers. Okay, so the story is juicy, and if it blows up I'll expose the girl, but I was prank called with a couple of my family friends. When one of them said I should call my ex-best friend, she literally kissed my boyfriend while he was drunk and confused. Anyways, we called her with no caller ID and used the sound from YouTube. She believed it, but right before she hung up, she said the N-word with a hard R. And keep in mind she's a white girl. I'll expose her Insta or SC or number if it blows up.
This one is my story, but anyways, I have an older brother named Julio, and he was drunk one day and he had went outside for some reason. Hours passed and me and my sister-in-law went to go look for him, but we thought he was just going for a walk since he always does. Minutes after that, a policeman comes to our door saying there's a crazy man in underwear running around, and we were like, what the fuck? Then after a while we heard a noise outside and we thought it was that crazy man. To my sister-in-law, went outside and looked for some dumbass reason, and that's when we saw my brother standing in a crop top and shorts that didn't fit his fat ass, and we asked why was he looking like that. He said he went to ask a neighbor for a beer and he didn't notice he wasn't wearing any clothes, and we just laughed at him. Then my sister-in-law dragged him by the ear into the shower, and yes, so anyone please adopt him because I'm tired of having dumbass brothers. I've never had a stable father figure in my life. He's an asshole and leaves me for his heroin addict girlfriend and her thousands of kids. The last time I went to his house he was being an asshole and started kicking the dog or some shit, so I kicked him so hard in the balls he dropped to the floor. When he could get up he threw me against the hardwood floor and picked me up by my arm to choke me against the wall. I literally turned purple. I turned into the blueberry bitch from that Willy Wonka movie. Anyways, it took his drug dealer and his girlfriend to get him to let me go. When I got loose I grabbed my bag and ran outside in the rain with fuzzy socks on. He has a little house in the county, so I has to run for a while to get to the gas station down the street. I was 11 at the time and my iPod Touch didn't have a call option, so I was texting my grandma, my dad's mom, to come get me. I never called the cops and my mom still doesn't know to this day.
So one time when I was in 5th grade I was reading a question out loud, and apparently the fuckhead behind me didn't like how I said data and told me I didn't to say right. Like the fuck, it means the same thing, you little fugly ass bitch. Anyways, my teacher was like, it doesn't matter, it's the same thing, but I was getting really pissed because he was really annoying that whole class, so I turned around and slapped him. Everyone was really quiet and my teacher didn't do anything until I went back to reading the question, and my teacher said under her breath that he deserved it.
This is one of my most baddest bitch moments. One time last year we had a temporary teacher for our music class. She would always pick on and call out my best friend for being slow at reading and writing. My best friend has dyslexia. We were in music class and my friend turned in her work and had some notes backwards. The teacher stated scolding her about how she should have been paying attention and etc. My friend nicely told her that she knew what the work was. She just accidentally flipped around the notes. We had told her in the past that she has dyslexia, so that's why some of her spelling is backwards and stuff. The next day we had it. My friend used her right hand on the top of the instrument instead of her left, and she got scolded again because she mixed up her lefts and rights. I got up and said, you know what the hell is wrong with you? You know she has a learning disability, so why the hell are you so damn picky about everything? So what if she accidentally messed up her rights and lefts? F King helped her learn instead of yelling at her.